to bring science to his work. Georges Seurat was born in Paris on December 2, 1859, a Sagittarius, and died in Paris on March 29, 1891. His father was a customs official, and his mother primarily raised him and his brother and sister, as their father was often away from home. Seurat started to take art lessons from his uncle. In 1875, he attended a local art school where he studied under the sculptor Justin Lequien. Then he trained at École des Beaux-Arts, where he studied under Henry Lehmann. The school clung tightly to classicism, and Seurat found the teaching irrelevant and too academic, so he left the school. But he continued to study on his own. When creating his own pieces, Seurat was very influenced by Impressionist ways. The conveying of light and atmosphere influenced his thoughts about painting. Seurat desired to introduce science to Impressionism and decided to take a new approach to painting through the use of pointillism. Seurat liked to compare himself to the modern-day Phidias because he would completely remake art like the sculptor did himself. Seurat was part of an exhibition on May 15, 1886, when he first revealed A Sunday Afternoon on the island of La Grande Jatte. Its size, technique, and rigid figures were disconcerting. Further, the long-tailed monkey was seen as humorous. Him and 6 other people that were part of this exhibition were seen as neo-impressionists. Seurat created his art as a scientific process through the use of panels and drawings prior to the canvas. The planning involved with this process was different from the classic impressionistic approach due to Seurat's planning and organization. Among all, La Grande Jatte was singled out due to its controversial subject.
The figures in La Grande Jatte are posed mostly in profile or seen from front or back, which flattens them and adds greatly to their lack of involvement with their neighbors, even when disposed in pairs of triplets. When viewing the piece closely, the brushwork appears quite animated. Although Seurat is known to create his work with repetitive dots, the strokes in fact vary from dots to long streaks. For example, the tree trunks have elongated dabs that flow along the axis of the tree and change direction outwards on the branches. Sadly, Seurat has become known for his uniformity. Further, critics compared Seurat to primitive work, but his technique and his contemporary subject matter separate him radically from the lion's masters. In the piece, Impressionism displays naturalism. In this ritual of middle-class leisure among pleasant surroundings, there are no factories and hardly a hint of work, unlike his other pieces. Seurat's site is the park that occupied the southern tip of the elongated island. Seurat treats the park as a stage across which a variety of people stroll or recline. His picture should be seen as an artifice devoted to social institution whose settings is contrived, since parks are artificial stages and whose participants deal in the stratagems of self-presentation. The parks were seen as an ideal place for strangers to display themselves to one another without providing clues to their individual identities. The scene is therefore most likely showing a place of encounters among prostitutes and clients. The woman on the right with the monkey is the most pointed to. Although Seurat dressed her in a classic middle-class outfit, it seems as if he was mocking the pretentiousness of elegant couples. Further, the man in the lower left is a muscular boatman that is juxtaposed with a dandified male, another figure whose pretentiousness is mocked by Seurat through his small size, formal dress, and cane. Seurat's satirization of contemporary fashion is clearly noted in this piece. Seurat seems to have one main goal: to combine contemporary life with timeless elements of style. Further, he ironically interpreted fashion of the time by exploiting the elegance while mocking it.
Seurat believed that science could be used to master the form of painting. In A Sunday Afternoon on the island of La Grande Jatte, he used scientific techniques to make the paint seem more luminous. Seurat divided colors into key components, and rather than mixing 2 colors together to create another, Seurat simply places the 2 colors next to each other on the canvas. The result allows for the viewer to see the intended color, while still technically only seeing the 2 other colors used. This technique that Seurat used was called optical mixture. Not only did Seurat use new scientific methods in his piece, but he also resorted back to the Impressionist style of depicting a scene in nature. Seurat uses earlier Impressionist traditions and mixes in the science of vision and color in order to create a truly unique piece of art. Seurat also incorporates an illusion of space, as well as the use of shadow and light. The illusion of space was not used very often in Impressionist art. Seurat also utilizes blending technique through his use of shadows. In traditional paintings, shadows are primarily represented by the color black. Following the principles of pointillism, Seurat is able to define his shadows by the color that they come in contact with. The skirts of the women provide the best examples for this. The clothing of the women in the center of the piece seem to be casting a blue shadow on the ground. Seurat's shadows here are not being defined by traditional means, but are instead a combination of the colors in its proximity. During his process of creating this painting, Seurat would go to the park and make sketches, and then he would later add on to the painting in his studio. In the park, he studied different settings and different lighting, and in the studio, he would apply his finished sketches to the painting. This painting took 2 years to complete. The tedious additions to the painting suggest that this painting is not a spontaneous creation, rather a detailed and thought-through process that demanded perfection.